You've been taught that you need medicine for every pain you feel in your body. But Buddhist monks discovered something completely different 2,500 years ago, that your body has an internal pharmacy waiting to be activated. When you stop fighting the pain and start listening to what it's trying to tell you, something extraordinary happens. Your body begins to heal itself through simple techniques you can do right now, sitting right where you are. Buddha taught that all physical suffering has a mental root, and today you'll learn the exact 10 techniques monks use to transform pain into healing without taking a single pill. These aren't empty promises. These are practices tested for thousands of years that modern science is finally beginning to understand. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment from which part of the world you're watching, get comfortable and relax. Let's begin. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to handle pain with remarkable calm while others are devastated by similar experiences? The answer lies not in the intensity of the pain itself, but in how we relate to it. Pain touches every human life. From the moment of birth to our final days, physical discomfort is an inescapable part of our journey. The sharp sting of a paper cut, the throbbing ache of a headache, the deep burning of inflammation. These sensations are universal messengers in our nervous system. They serve as our body's sophisticated warning system, alerting us to potential damage or disease. This warning system has protected humans throughout our evolution, helping us survive by signaling when something threatens our physical well-being. Yet what happens after that initial pain signal makes all the difference in our experience. This is where pain and suffering diverge into separate paths. Pain is the physical sensation, the raw data of nerve impulses traveling to our brain. Suffering, however, is our mental and emotional response to that data. This distinction might seem subtle, but it represents a profound truth that can transform how we experience discomfort. When pain arrives, most people follow a predictable pattern. The sensation registers, and within seconds, we reach for relief. For many, this means medication, a pill to dull a headache, a cream to soothe a burn, an injection to numb a procedure. Modern medicine has given us remarkable tools to manage pain, and these interventions are sometimes necessary and appropriate. Pain medications can be life-saving in trauma, essential during surgery, and compassionate for those with severe conditions. However, this immediate reach for external solutions often addresses only symptoms rather than deeper causes. Like placing a bandage over a splinter without removing it, medication can mask pain while leaving its source untouched. More importantly, this approach bypasses something extraordinary: our body's built-in capacity to manage pain from within. The human body contains sophisticated natural healing mechanisms that activate when we change our relationship with pain. These internal systems produce compounds called endorphins, natural painkillers that function remarkably similarly to morphine. The word endorphin even reflects this similarity, coming from endogenous morphine, meaning morphine created within the body. When we shift our approach to discomfort, these powerful chemicals flood our system, creating natural relief without side effects. This isn't merely an ancient belief or wishful thinking. Modern scientific research has documented this phenomenon in laboratory settings. Scientists observe increased endorphin production in the bloodstream when subjects engage in specific mental practices during painful stimuli tests. These natural compounds bind to the same receptors in the brain that respond to opioid medications, but they do so in a balanced way that the body regulates precisely. The understanding that we can influence our pain experience has roots stretching back thousands of years. Buddhist practitioners discovered these techniques through careful, systematic observation of their own bodies and minds. Unlike theoretical concepts developed in isolation, these approaches emerged from direct experience with suffering. Practitioners would sit in meditation, observing their sensations with careful attention, noting how their mental states affected their physical experiences. Over 2,500 years, these observations developed into sophisticated methods for working with discomfort. These techniques don't ask us to ignore pain or pretend it doesn't exist. Instead, they offer practical ways to relate to pain differently, reducing the suffering that typically accompanies it. This ancient wisdom complements modern medical treatments rather than replacing them. The most effective approach often combines both, using appropriate medical care while also engaging these internal resources. At the heart of this approach lies a fundamental insight. While pain may be inevitable in human life, suffering is often optional. This statement might initially sound impossible or insensitive to those in severe pain, yet it reflects a profound truth about how our minds process physical sensations. Between the raw experience of pain and our suffering lies a space, a gap where we have more choice than we realize. Understanding this difference, that pain involves both physical sensations and mental processing, creates the possibility for transformation. The sensation itself might remain, but our experience of it can change dramatically. This happens because pain perception isn't simply a matter of nerve endings sending signals. It involves complex processing in multiple brain regions that interpret those signals, compare them to past experiences, attach meaning to them, and generate emotional responses. This complexity might seem discouraging at first. Pain processing appears too intricate to influence consciously. Yet, this same complexity creates opportunities for intervention, because so many mental factors contribute to our pain experience. Changing even one factor can significantly alter the whole experience. Think about a time when you were so engaged in an activity that you didn't notice a minor injury until later, perhaps a bruise or cut you discovered hours after it happened. During your absorption in the activity, the pain signals reached your brain but were processed differently because of your mental state. This everyday experience demonstrates how powerfully our attention and focus affect pain perception. The mental shifts we'll explore work with this natural capacity. They don't require special abilities or years of training to begin experiencing benefits. They simply use the brain's existing architecture in more skillful ways. With practice, these approaches become more effective, creating lasting changes in how we process discomfort of all kinds. Our relationship with pain typically develops unconsciously. We learn how to respond to discomfort from our families, our culture, and our previous experiences. Most of this learning happens without deliberate choice. We absorb patterns of response without questioning them. The approach we're exploring involves becoming conscious of these patterns and making intentional choices about how we relate to pain. This path begins with curiosity rather than resistance. Instead of immediately fighting against pain, we learn to observe it carefully. This observation reveals that what we call pain isn't a single solid experience, but a changing flow of sensations, thoughts, and emotions. When we see pain more clearly, we discover aspects of it that we can influence, even when we cannot eliminate the sensation entirely. The body contains wisdom accumulated through millions of years of evolution. Its pain signals serve important protective functions that we wouldn't want to eliminate completely. Pain tells us to remove our hand from a hot surface, rest an injured joint, or seek help for an infection. The goal isn't to silence these important messages, but to receive them without adding unnecessary suffering. As we develop a new relationship with pain, something remarkable happens. The same nervous system that carries pain signals also carries messages of relief and healing. As we learn to work with this system more skillfully, we tap into recovery mechanisms that often remain dormant in typical pain responses. The body knows how to heal. Our task is to create conditions that support rather than interfere with this natural capacity. This journey toward a different experience of pain begins with understanding its true nature. Pain isn't simply physical or mental, it's both. This integrated understanding opens doors to approaches that address the full spectrum of our experience, creating possibilities for relief even when pain cannot be eliminated. By recognizing how our minds and bodies interact during discomfort, we take the first step toward transformation. Near Chapter 2, The Science of Pain. Perception. Have you ever wondered why some people can handle a broken bone with surprising calm while others find a paper cut almost unbearable? The answer lies deep within your brain and nervous system, where pain signals travel along intricate pathways that science is only beginning to fully understand. When pain appears in your body, a remarkable process begins. Imagine you touch something hot. Specialized nerve endings in your fingertips instantly detect this dangerous heat. These nerve endings, called nociceptors, serve as tiny sentinels throughout your body, constantly monitoring for potential threats. They stand guard in your skin, muscles, joints, and internal organs, ready to sound the alarm when something goes wrong. Once activated, these nociceptors create electrical signals that race along nerve fibers toward your spinal cord. These signals move quickly, within fractions of a second. When they reach your spinal cord, something interesting happens. The spinal cord doesn't simply relay these messages directly to your brain. Instead, it acts as a gatekeeper, performing initial processing of the information. This gatekeeper role is crucial because it can either amplify pain signals or reduce them before they ever reach your brain. In some situations, your spinal cord circuitry can block certain pain signals entirely. This explains why you might not notice a minor injury during intense physical activity or emotional situations. Your spinal cord temporarily closes the gate to those pain messages. The signals that pass through this gate continue their journey upward to your brain. They travel to several regions, including the thalamus, which sorts sensory information, and the somatosensory cortex, which helps identify where in your body the pain is located. But the journey doesn't end there. Your brain processes pain in multiple regions simultaneously. The physical sensation, the location, intensity, and quality of the pain gets processed in certain areas. Meanwhile, the emotional aspects, how unpleasant the pain feels and your emotional reaction to it, get processed in different regions, particularly the anterior cingulate cortex and the insular cortex. This multi-region processing reveals something profound. Pain isn't just a simple message that travels one way from injury to brain. It's an experience that your brain actively constructs based on many factors. Researchers at Stanford University's Neuroscience Pain Lab have demonstrated this reality through fascinating experiments. They've shown that by focusing attention in specific ways, people can change activity in their anterior cingulate cortex, a key brain region that processes pain intensity. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that two people with identical injuries can experience vastly different pain levels. Your expectations, beliefs, past experiences, and current emotional state all influence how your brain processes pain signals. This isn't imagination or psychology alone. It's actual neurobiological differences in how the brain constructs the pain experience. Consider what happens during a placebo response. When someone takes a sugar pill believing it to be pain medication, they often experience real relief. Brain imaging shows that this belief activates the body's internal pharmacy, releasing natural painkillers called endorphins. The placebo doesn't just change how people talk about their pain, it changes their actual neurobiological response to pain. Scientists at Massachusetts General Hospital have documented this phenomenon in meditation practitioners. During experimental pain tests, these individuals showed increased endorphin production. These natural chemicals, whose name comes from endogenous morphine produced within the body, bind to the same receptors as powerful opioid medications. When released, endorphins block pain signals and create feelings of well-being. Your brain can trigger their release through various states of mind and physical activities. This internal pain management system evolved to help humans cope with injury while continuing necessary survival activities. But endorphins represent just one way your brain influences pain. Your nervous system also includes descending pathways, neural connections that travel from brain to body. These pathways can release chemicals that either dampen or amplify pain signals at the spinal cord level. When you're stressed, anxious, or focused on pain, These pathways often amplify the signals. When you're calm, confident, or engaged in certain mental practices, these same pathways can significantly reduce pain signal strength. Your attention plays a particularly powerful role in this process. When you focus intently on pain, certain brain networks activate that can make discomfort feel more intense and threatening. Conversely, when you direct attention skillfully, different networks activate that can reduce pain perception. This explains why distraction sometimes helps with pain. It engages brain networks that compete with pain processing regions for attention resources. The influence of attention on pain has been demonstrated through brain imaging studies. When people focus on the unpleasantness of pain, activity increases in emotional processing regions. When they focus on the sensory qualities without emotional judgment, activity increases in sensory regions while decreasing in emotional regions. This shift often results in the same physical sensation, feeling less distressing. Your past experiences with pain also shape how your brain processes current discomfort. Each pain experience creates neural pathways that influence future pain processing. If previous pain experiences were frightening or overwhelming, your brain becomes more sensitive to similar sensations in the future. This explains why people who have experienced traumatic injuries often develop heightened sensitivity to pain. Their nervous system has been trained to respond more intensely. The good news is that this same neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience, works in positive directions too. With repeated experiences of managing pain effectively, your brain creates new neural pathways that process discomfort differently. These new pathways can become your default response with practice. Your current emotional state significantly influences pain processing. Negative emotions like fear, anxiety, and depression amplify pain by increasing activity in threat detection brain regions and raising levels of inflammatory chemicals in your body. Positive emotions and states of calm have the opposite effect, reducing both the sensory and emotional aspects of pain. This emotional influence works through several mechanisms. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline make pain receptors more sensitive. The immune system responds to emotional distress by releasing inflammatory compounds that increase pain sensitivity, and brain networks involved in emotional processing share significant overlap with pain processing networks, creating a two-way relationship between emotions and pain. Cultural factors also shape individual pain responses. Different cultures teach different attitudes toward pain, affecting how people attend to, interpret, and express discomfort. These cultural influences aren't just psychological, they create actual differences in neural processing. However, the mental shifts that reduce suffering work across cultural backgrounds because they target universal neurological mechanisms underlying pain perception. This scientific understanding explains why mental approaches can create physical changes in pain perception without addressing the original injury or condition. Your brain doesn't just passively receive pain information, it actively constructs your experience of pain moment by moment. The brain-body connection in pain processing works through multiple channels. Beyond neural pathways, your brain communicates with your body through hormones and immune system messengers. This complex communication network means that changing your mental state can trigger corresponding changes throughout your physical body. For instance, when you enter a state of calm through certain breathing practices, your brain releases chemicals that reduce inflammation throughout your body. When you shift attention in specific ways, your brain activates mechanisms that dampen pain signal transmission at multiple points along the pathway from injury to conscious awareness. This neurobiological perspective doesn't mean pain is all in your head or not real. The pain is absolutely real, but your brain plays a crucial role in determining how that pain feels from moment to moment. Understanding this role gives you access to internal resources for modifying your pain experience. The science of pain perception continues to evolve, with new discoveries regularly expanding our understanding. Recent research reveals that even social factors influence pain processing at a neurobiological level. Being with trusted others activates pain-relieving mechanisms, while social isolation increases pain sensitivity. This finding helps explain why supportive relationships can significantly impact recovery from painful conditions. The brain doesn't just influence how you perceive existing pain, it also plays a role in whether certain signals become conscious pain at all. Your nervous system constantly receives thousands of sensory signals, but only a small fraction reach conscious awareness. Your brain decides which signals deserve attention based on their potential importance for survival and well-being. This filtering process explains why you might suddenly notice muscle tension that was present all day once someone mentions it, or why an athlete might not notice an injury until after a competition ends. The signals were there, but your brain hadn't categorized them as important enough for conscious attention. Understanding the science behind pain perception provides the foundation for working skillfully with discomfort. This knowledge reveals why mental approaches can be so effective. They work with the same neural mechanisms that construct the pain experience in the first place. By engaging these mechanisms intentionally, you can influence how signals are processed, transmitted, and experienced. The brain doesn't just passively receive pain. It actively creates your pain experience through a complex interplay of physical signals, expectations, emotions, memories, and attention. This active role means you have more influence over pain than previously understood. The mindfulness practices we'll explore work directly with these neurological mechanisms, helping you develop a different relationship with discomfort. Chapter 3: Mindfulness and Pain Observation. Have you ever noticed that the moment you focus directly on a painful area, it sometimes feels more intense than when you were distracted? This simple observation reveals a powerful truth about our relationship with discomfort. Mindfulness forms the foundation for transforming our experience of pain. But what exactly is mindfulness? In simple terms, mindfulness means paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It involves noticing what's happening right now in your body, your thoughts, and your emotions with a curious, open attitude rather than automatically reacting. This approach might sound simple, but it represents a significant shift from how most people relate to their experiences, especially painful ones. Most of us automatically merge our physical sensations with judgments about those sensations. The thought, "this pain is terrible," seems inseparable from the pain itself. We experience them as a single package, the sensation plus our immediate reaction to it. Mindfulness helps us recognize that these are actually separate components. The physical sensation exists in one dimension of experience, while our thoughts about it exist in another. When we can distinguish between them, we gain a crucial degree of freedom in our relationship with pain. Researchers at the University of Toronto discovered that regular mindfulness practitioners developed measurable changes in their brains. Brain scans showed thicker gray matter in regions responsible for sensory processing. This physical brain change allows for more neutral observation of experiences. Rather than immediately categorizing sensations as good or bad, practitioners developed the ability to observe them more directly without the automatic overlay of judgment. These brain changes don't happen overnight. They develop through regular practice, much like physical exercise builds muscle over time. The mind, like the body, responds to consistent training by developing new capabilities. These capabilities then become available during challenging experiences like pain or illness. Mindfulness begins with establishing awareness of the body. Many people live primarily in their thoughts, paying little attention to physical sensations until they become very strong or unpleasant. Developing a more balanced awareness includes reconnecting with the direct experience of having a body. Body scanning offers a structured way to develop this awareness. This practice involves systematically directing attention through different regions of your body, noticing sensations without trying to change them. You might start with your feet and gradually move upward, or begin with your head and move down. The specific direction matters less than the quality of attention you bring to each area. As you scan your body, You might notice many different sensations: warmth, coolness, tingling, pressure, tightness, pulsing, or stillness. Some areas might feel neutral or pleasant, while others might feel uncomfortable or painful. The practice involves noticing all these sensations with the same interested attention, without favoring pleasant sensations or rejecting unpleasant ones. This equal attention to all sensations goes against our usual habits. Normally, we quickly move away from discomfort and toward pleasure. While this makes intuitive sense, it creates problems when dealing with pain we cannot escape. When we can't physically move away from pain, our mind still tries to escape through resistance, denial, or distraction. These mental escape attempts often increase tension and suffering rather than relieving them. Body scanning helps develop a different response, the ability to be present with sensations just as they are. This presence doesn't mean passive resignation. Instead, it establishes a clear understanding of your current experience, which serves as the foundation for any effective response. Through regular body scanning practice, you develop meta-awareness, the ability to observe your own experience as it happens. This skill represents a significant shift from our usual mode of being caught up in experience without observing it. Meta-awareness allows you to notice not just physical sensations, but also your reactions to them. You might observe thoughts like, "I hate this pain," or "I can't stand this." You might notice emotions like fear, frustration, or sadness arising in response to discomfort. You might detect the impulse to move, distract yourself, or reach for medication. All these reactions become objects of awareness rather than automatic programs that run without your conscious participation. This growing awareness reveals how much of our suffering comes not from pain itself, but from our reaction to it. The physical sensation might be unavoidable in some circumstances, but our mental and emotional responses often amplify the original discomfort. Mindfulness helps identify these amplification processes so we can work with them skillfully. As this awareness develops, you'll notice that pain itself isn't as solid or constant as it first appears. Even intense pain fluctuates from moment to moment. It has locations, boundaries, and qualities that change over time. What seemed like one overwhelming sensation reveals itself as a complex, changing flow of experience. This more nuanced perception naturally reduces the threat value of pain. When pain appears as a solid, unchanging block of suffering, it triggers strong fear responses. When recognized as a changing flow of sensations with moments of intensity, but also moments of relief, it becomes more manageable. This shift in perception doesn't deny the reality of pain, but relates to it differently. Mindfulness practice also reveals the role of attention in pain perception. Where we place our attention significantly influences our experience. Most people instinctively focus intently on pain, which often makes it feel more intense and threatening. Mindfulness teaches a more balanced attention that neither fixates on pain nor tries to ignore it. This balanced attention includes awareness of the whole body, not just the painful area. During discomfort, you might notice that while pain exists in one region, other parts of your body feel neutral or even pleasant. This broader awareness provides perspective, preventing pain from dominating your entire field of consciousness. Mindfulness doesn't eliminate pain, but creates space between sensation and reaction. This space allows for new responses to develop. Without mindfulness, the sequence of pain leading to tension, fear, and more pain happens automatically and unconsciously. With mindfulness, you can observe this sequence as it begins and intervene before it escalates. Regular practice strengthens this observational capacity, much like exercising a muscle. Each time you pause to notice sensations without immediately reacting, you reinforce neural pathways that support this ability. Over time, this response becomes more natural and requires less deliberate effort. Formal mindfulness practice, setting aside specific time for body scanning or other mindfulness exercises, builds the foundation for this skill. However, the real value emerges when you apply mindfulness during actual pain experiences. Each moment of discomfort becomes an opportunity to practice observing sensations, thoughts, and reactions with balanced awareness. This practice doesn't ask you to like pain or pretend it doesn't bother you. It simply involves seeing clearly what's happening without adding unnecessary layers of resistance, judgment, or fear. This clarity itself often reduces suffering, even when the physical sensation remains. For those with chronic pain conditions, mindfulness offers particularly valuable tools. When pain persists over months or years, the relationship with pain becomes as important as any treatment. Mindfulness helps develop a relationship characterized by awareness and balance rather than constant struggle. Many people report that while mindfulness doesn't always reduce their pain intensity, it significantly reduces their suffering. The physical sensation might remain, but without the added mental and emotional distress, the overall experience becomes more manageable. This shift makes a profound difference in quality of life, even when pain cannot be eliminated. The effects of mindfulness practice extend beyond pain management. The same skills that help during physical discomfort also apply to emotional pain, difficult thoughts, and challenging life situations. The capacity to be present with experience without immediately reacting creates resilience across many domains. Mindfulness serves as a prerequisite for the other mental shifts that reduce suffering. Without the ability to notice your automatic reactions to pain, you cannot change them. Each subsequent approach builds on this foundation of clear awareness. The observational skills developed through mindfulness make all other pain management techniques more effective. This foundation helps explain why acceptance practices work so powerfully with pain. Once mindfulness helps us clearly see our tendency to resist and fight against discomfort, we can explore what happens when we take a different approach. Acceptance builds directly on the awareness that mindfulness develops. Rather than seeing pain as an enemy to be defeated, mindfulness allows us to approach it as a messenger to be understood. This shift in perspective doesn't mean ignoring the message or allowing harmful conditions to continue untreated. It means receiving the information pain provides without adding unnecessary suffering through our reaction to it. The space that mindfulness creates between sensation and response contains tremendous freedom. In that space, we can choose how to relate to our experience rather than being driven by automatic reactions. This freedom represents the beginning of a transformed relationship with pain and suffering. By developing the ability to observe our experience clearly, we prepare the ground for the paradoxical approach that often brings the greatest relief. We discover that accepting pain, rather than fighting against it, can significantly reduce our suffering. This counterintuitive truth becomes accessible through the clear seeing that mindfulness develops. Chapter 4. The Acceptance Paradox. What if the very act of fighting against your pain actually makes it worse? This question points to one of the most counterintuitive discoveries about suffering, that accepting pain rather than struggling against it often reduces how much it hurts. This approach seems to contradict our natural instincts. When pain arrives, our immediate reaction is to resist it. We tense up. We mentally push against it. We tell ourselves, "I can't stand this," or "This needs to stop right now." This resistance feels like the only reasonable response. After all, pain signals potential danger, so fighting against it seems logical. Yet research tells a surprising story about this resistance. In a study at the University of Utah, researchers subjected participants to painful stimuli under different mental instructions. Those who were taught to accept the sensation reported 28% lower pain levels than those told to resist or control it. This substantial difference occurred despite everyone experiencing identical physical stimuli. What explains this paradoxical result? The first clue lies in what happens in our bodies when we resist pain. Resistance creates muscle tension, especially around the painful area. This tension restricts blood flow, increases inflammation, and often amplifies the very sensation we're trying to escape. Our bodies literally tighten against the experience, creating physical conditions that intensify discomfort. Resistance also triggers stress responses throughout our nervous system. When we mentally fight against pain, our brain interprets this as an emergency situation. It releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which prepare us for fight or flight responses. While helpful for escaping immediate physical threats, these hormones actually increase sensitivity to pain when there's nowhere to run. Beyond these physical effects, resistance creates a second layer of suffering on top of the original pain. The initial layer consists of the raw physical sensation, perhaps a throbbing headache or an aching back. The second layer includes our thoughts and feelings about that sensation: frustration that it won't stop, fear about what it might mean, anger that it's interfering with our plans, or anxiety about how long it might last. This second layer often causes more distress than the original sensation. Many pain patients report that their fear, frustration, and sense of helplessness feel worse than the physical discomfort itself. By fighting against pain, we inadvertently strengthen this secondary suffering. Acceptance offers a different path. But what does acceptance actually mean when it comes to pain? Many people misinterpret acceptance as resignation or giving up. They believe accepting pain means passively surrendering to suffering without trying to improve their situation. This misunderstanding prevents many from exploring this approach. True acceptance involves acknowledging three simple facts without adding judgment or resistance. First, it recognizes that the pain exists right now. This might seem obvious, but many people spend considerable energy denying their current reality or wishing things were different. Acceptance simply acknowledges what is already happening in this moment. Second, acceptance recognizes that fighting reality creates additional suffering. This insight doesn't blame you for natural protective responses, but simply observes their effects. When we stop spending energy fighting what has already happened, we free that energy for more constructive responses. Third, acceptance establishes a realistic starting point for wise action. Rather than beginning from a place of denial or wishful thinking, it starts with a clear recognition of current conditions. This clarity provides a solid foundation for whatever steps might genuinely help the situation. Practicing acceptance begins with recognizing our habitual resistance patterns. These patterns often operate automatically outside our conscious awareness. Common resistance behaviors include muscle tightening around pain, holding the breath, catastrophic thinking about what the pain might mean, and desperate attempts to distract ourselves from the sensation. Once identified, we can consciously work with these patterns. Physical resistance often releases when we deliberately relax muscles, especially those surrounding the painful area. This doesn't eliminate the original sensation, but removes the additional discomfort created by tension. Simple relaxation practices like progressive muscle relaxation can help develop this skill. Breath holding represents another common resistance pattern. Many people unconsciously hold their breath or breathe very shallowly when experiencing pain. This reduces oxygen flow throughout the body and signals danger to the nervous system. Consciously returning to natural, full breathing counteracts this pattern and creates conditions for relief. Mental resistance often takes the form of judgments and catastrophic thoughts. We might label pain as unbearable even while clearly bearing it, or predict it will never end, despite all evidence that everything changes. These thoughts intensify emotional distress and trigger additional stress responses. Recognizing these thoughts as mental events rather than facts helps interrupt this escalation cycle. Acceptance doesn't mean liking the pain or giving up on improvement. This critical distinction separates resignation from true acceptance. You can fully accept your current experience while still taking appropriate actions to address its causes or reduce its intensity. In fact, acceptance often leads to more effective action because it's based on clear perception rather than panic or denial. Think of acceptance as redirecting energy from futile resistance to effective response. When you stop fighting against the reality that pain exists right now, you can direct that same energy toward what genuinely helps. This might include appropriate medical treatment, gentle movement, relaxation practices, or other approaches that address your specific situation. Acceptance practices can begin very simply. When pain arises, pause before automatically reacting against it. Take several calm breaths while acknowledging this is happening right now. Notice any impulse to fight the sensation and gently relax that tension. Observe any catastrophic thoughts without treating them as facts. This brief pause interrupts habitual resistance patterns and creates space for a different response. With practice, this acceptance approach becomes more natural. What initially requires conscious effort gradually becomes an intuitive way of relating to discomfort. This doesn't mean you'll never experience resistance again. These patterns are deeply ingrained and serve protective functions. But you'll recognize resistance more quickly and know how to work with it skillfully. The benefits of acceptance extend beyond pain reduction. Many people report feeling a sense of emotional relief when they stop fighting against their experience. The struggle against reality creates a constant background tension that affects overall well-being. When this struggle relaxes, many people experience a surprising sense of peace despite continued physical discomfort. Acceptance also helps reduce anxiety about future pain. Many pain conditions involve fear of the next episode or worry about pain increasing. This anticipatory anxiety itself creates muscle tension and stress responses that can trigger or worsen the very pain we fear. Acceptance helps break this cycle by reducing the secondary fear response. Research on acceptance has expanded significantly in recent years, with studies documenting its effectiveness for various pain conditions. People with chronic back pain, arthritis, fibromyalgia, and even some forms of neuropathic pain report benefits from this approach. While the degree of relief varies among individuals and conditions, the pattern of reduced suffering appears consistent. As we develop the skill of accepting physical sensations rather than fighting them, we gain a foundation for working more directly with pain itself. This acceptance doesn't mean stopping at simple acknowledgement. It opens the door to more sophisticated approaches for relating to discomfort. One such approach involves breaking down pain into smaller components to make it more manageable. Once we stop perceiving pain as a solid enemy to be fought, we can begin observing it more carefully. This observation reveals that what we call pain isn't actually one overwhelming sensation, but a complex experience with distinct elements. When we accept the presence of discomfort without immediately trying to escape it, we create the conditions for a more detailed investigation. This investigation doesn't increase suffering through excessive focus on pain. Instead, it transforms our relationship with sensation by revealing its true nature. By accepting pain as our current reality, we gain the stability and clarity needed to work with it skillfully. The acceptance paradox points to a fundamental truth about human experience. What we resist tends to persist in our awareness, often growing stronger through our very attempts to eliminate it. By accepting pain's presence, without resignation or defeat, we create the conditions for transformation. This transformation begins not by fighting harder against our experience, but by relating to it with greater wisdom and clarity. Chapter 5. Deconstructing Pain. Sensations. What would happen if you examined your pain closely, the way a scientist studies something under a microscope? You might discover that what feels like one overwhelming wave of misery is actually made of smaller parts that you can handle one by one. When pain strikes, most people experience it as a single overwhelming sensation that consumes their attention. This unified perception makes pain feel powerful and unmanageable. It becomes a solid wall of discomfort that seems impossible to break through. However, this perception isn't accurate. Pain is rarely a single, solid experience. Breaking down pain into smaller components makes it significantly more manageable. This approach represents a major shift from how most people relate to discomfort. Untrained individuals typically perceive pain as one overwhelming sensation. Trained observers recognize distinct elements: pressure, heat, tingling, pulsing, throbbing, or burning. Each component, when examined separately, feels less threatening than the combined experience. This deconstruction technique has impressive clinical results. Studies at Johns Hopkins Pain Treatment Center documented a 44% reduction in reported pain severity when patients learned to break down their pain into separate components. This substantial improvement occurred without medication changes or other interventions. The practice begins with identifying the precise location and boundaries of the sensation. This step might seem obvious, but many people experience pain as vaguely defined or spreading throughout their body. When examined carefully, even intense pain usually has specific edges rather than covering the entire body. To locate these boundaries, bring your attention to the painful area and notice exactly where the sensation begins and ends. Is it precisely in your lower back, or does it extend into your hip? Does your headache cover your entire head, or is it concentrated in your temples or behind one eye? Defining these boundaries immediately makes the pain seem more contained and manageable. After establishing these boundaries, identify the primary quality of the sensation. Is it primarily burning, stabbing, aching, throbbing, shooting, or dull? Most pain has a dominant quality, though several might be present simultaneously. Naming this quality helps your brain process the sensation as information rather than just a threat. This naming process engages parts of your brain that handle language and categorization. When you label a sensation as burning, you activate neural networks associated with understanding and processing that specific type of experience. This cognitive engagement naturally reduces the emotional alarm response that pain typically triggers. Next, notice any changes in intensity. Even severe pain fluctuates slightly from moment to moment. These fluctuations might be subtle. Perhaps the throbbing briefly becomes less intense between pulses, or the burning sensation momentarily decreases before returning. Tracking these subtle variations helps your brain register that pain is not permanent or unchanging. This recognition of change is crucial because the brain responds most strongly to sensations it perceives as constant threats. When the brain recognizes that a sensation varies in intensity, it often reduces the emergency response to that sensation. This reduced emergency response leads to less muscle tension, stress hormone release, and overall suffering. As you continue observing the pain, notice any spaces or gaps where discomfort is absent or minimal. Even in severe pain conditions, these pain-free areas exist. They might be small regions right next to the painful area, or they might be entirely different parts of your body that feel normal or even pleasant. Finding these pain-free spaces reminds your nervous system that relief exists. This awareness provides perspective, preventing pain from dominating your entire field of consciousness. Regularly shifting attention between uncomfortable and comfortable areas creates a more balanced experience than remaining fixated only on discomfort. This balanced attention doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It simply establishes a more accurate perception that includes both discomfort and non-discomfort. This accuracy helps reduce catastrophic thinking about pain as an all-consuming experience from which there is no relief. When practicing this deconstruction approach, many people discover that pain often contains multiple layers of sensation. What initially feels like one type of pain might actually include several distinct experiences happening simultaneously. For example, what someone calls back pain might include muscle tension, a deep aching sensation, and brief shooting sensations when moving in certain ways. Recognizing these layers allows you to address each component appropriately. Muscle tension might respond well to gentle stretching or relaxation techniques. Deep aching might benefit from warmth or anti-inflammatory approaches. Shooting pain might indicate a need for different movement patterns. This nuanced understanding enables more targeted and effective responses. The deconstruction approach also reveals how physical sensations and emotional reactions intertwine in the pain experience. When observing carefully, you might notice that physical discomfort triggers emotions like frustration, fear, or sadness. These emotions then create additional physical sensations like chest tightness, shallow breathing, or muscle tension that amplify the original pain. Breaking this cycle into its components helps interrupt the escalation process. You can recognize this is physical discomfort and this is my emotional reaction to it, rather than experiencing everything as one overwhelming painful state. This distinction creates space for working with each element appropriately. The detailed observation that deconstruction involves naturally reduces the emotional alarm response to pain. The brain stops categorizing the sensation as an emergency requiring immediate escape and begins processing it as information to be understood. This shift activates different neural pathways and chemical responses throughout the body. Many people report feeling less afraid of their pain after practicing this approach. When pain is an undifferentiated mass of suffering, it seems overwhelming and incomprehensible. When broken down into specific components with identifiable qualities and boundaries, it becomes something you can work with rather than merely endure. This reduced fear has significant benefits beyond subjective comfort. Fear of pain creates a vicious cycle in many conditions. Fear leads to muscle guarding, restricted movement, and increased attention to potential pain signals. These reactions often worsen the underlying condition and create additional problems like muscle imbalances or weakened tissues from disuse. Breaking this fear cycle through detailed observation helps prevent these secondary complications. When you understand pain more precisely and feel less threatened by it, you're more likely to maintain appropriate movement and activity levels. This maintenance often supports healing and prevents the downward spiral that fear can trigger. The deconstruction approach becomes more effective with practice. Initially, you might need to deliberately guide yourself through each step of the process. With time, your brain develops the habit of automatically perceiving pain in more nuanced, detailed ways. This perceptual shift becomes your default response rather than requiring conscious effort. This practice works even for severe or chronic pain conditions. People with conditions like fibromyalgia, complex regional pain syndrome, or chronic back pain report significant benefits from learning to deconstruct their sensations. While this approach doesn't necessarily eliminate their pain, it often substantially reduces the suffering associated with it. The ability to break down pain into manageable components provides a foundation for working with language and pain, which represents the next mental shift. How we talk about and label our pain significantly influences our experience of it. The detailed observation skills developed through deconstruction enable more precise and helpful language choices. For example, instead of saying "my back is killing me," which triggers alarm responses and catastrophic thinking, deconstruction enables more accurate descriptions like "I'm feeling a moderate throbbing sensation in my lower right back with some muscle tightness around it." This precise language communicates the experience without adding unnecessary emotional intensity. The words we choose don't just communicate our experience to others, they shape how we ourselves perceive and process that experience. When we use extreme, alarming language about pain, we activate specific neural networks associated with threat and danger. When we use more neutral, descriptive language, we activate different networks associated with information processing and problem solving. The deconstruction approach helps create the mental conditions for these more helpful language choices. By observing pain carefully and breaking it into specific components, you naturally develop a more precise vocabulary for your experience. This vocabulary then influences how your brain processes and responds to the sensations. Understanding the true nature of your pain through careful observation creates the foundation for changing how you think and talk about it. Instead of remaining trapped in general labels and catastrophic interpretations, you develop the ability to describe your experience accurately. This accuracy itself often brings significant relief while also enabling more effective communication with healthcare providers. The language you use about pain affects not just your current experience, but also how your brain encodes and remembers that experience. These memories then influence how you anticipate and respond to similar sensations in the future. By deconstructing pain now and describing it more accurately, you help reshape your brain's pain processing for future encounters with discomfort. Chapter 6: The Power of Neutral Language. Did you know that the words you use to describe your pain might actually be making it hurt more? The language we choose affects not just how we communicate about pain, but how we physically experience it. The words we use about pain dramatically influence our experience. This influence runs deeper than you might expect. It's not just psychological, but neurobiological. When you describe your headache as excruciating or say your back pain is unbearable or killing you, these words activate specific brain networks associated with threat and danger. Neuro-linguistic studies have revealed something remarkable about this process. When people use extreme, alarming language about their pain, researchers observe increased activity in the amygdala, a brain region that processes threat and generates fear responses. This same region triggers the release of stress hormones and inflammatory chemicals throughout the body. These chemicals, including cortisol and adrenaline, create a cascade of physical effects. They increase muscle tension, reduce blood flow to certain tissues, and make pain receptors more sensitive. In essence, dramatic pain language creates actual biological changes that intensify the very discomfort you're describing. The good news is that this same mechanism works in the opposite direction as well. Changing pain descriptions to more neutral factual terms reduces activity in these threat-processing brain regions. This reduction leads to decreased stress hormone release, less muscle tension, and often a significant reduction in perceived pain intensity. This shift begins by monitoring your internal dialogue about pain. Most people have a running commentary in their minds that they barely notice. This commentary often includes automatic catastrophic thoughts about pain. Common examples include phrases like, "I can't stand this," or "this will never end," or "this is ruining everything." These thoughts happen so quickly and feel so natural that most people don't recognize them as separate from the pain itself. They seem simply like the truth about what's happening. However, these interpretations significantly influence how your nervous system processes pain signals. When you catch yourself thinking, "this is unbearable," pause and notice that you are, in fact, bearing it in this moment. When you think, "this will never end," remind yourself that everything changes, including pain intensity. These small reality checks help interrupt the catastrophic thinking spiral that amplifies suffering. The next step involves replacing these dramatic interpretations with factual, neutral descriptions. Instead of telling yourself, "this migraine is killing me," you might note, "there's a throbbing sensation on the right side of my head." Instead of "my back is wrecked," you might observe, "I'm experiencing moderate tension in my lower back muscles." This language shift doesn't deny that pain exists or minimize your experience. It simply removes unnecessary emotional intensification. The physical sensations remain, but without the added layer of catastrophic interpretation, they often feel more manageable. Even subtle wording changes make a difference. Replacing pain with sensation or discomfort can alter your nervous system response. Using "currently experiencing" instead of "suffering from" acknowledges the temporary nature of the sensation rather than identifying yourself with it permanently. The quality of your external communication about pain also matters significantly. When describing your experience to others, whether family members, friends, or healthcare providers, using precise, non-dramatic language helps maintain a balanced perspective and enables more effective support. Many people unconsciously use extreme language when talking about pain to ensure others take their experience seriously. There's a fear that using moderate language might make others dismiss their discomfort. However, precise, detailed descriptions actually communicate more useful information than dramatic generalizations. For example, telling a doctor, "I have the worst pain ever," provides less useful diagnostic information than, "I notice a sharp, stabbing sensation in my right abdomen that intensifies when I bend forward." The second description helps identify potential causes and appropriate treatments more effectively. This communication approach extends to how you think and talk about future pain. Anticipatory language like "tomorrow's physical therapy session is going to be torture" increases anxiety and actually primes your nervous system for greater sensitivity when the event occurs. Research has documented this effect clearly. When people are told a procedure will be extremely painful, they typically experience it as more painful than those given neutral or positive expectations, even when the actual stimulus is identical. Your brain prepares for what you tell it to expect. Changing anticipatory language to more neutral terms like "I'll experience some intense sensations during therapy" acknowledges the challenge without catastrophizing it. This mental preparation helps maintain a balanced nervous system response when you actually encounter the discomfort. Practicing neutral language works particularly well when combined with the deconstruction skills from the previous chapter. When you've learned to break down pain into specific components, you naturally develop more precise language for describing those components. This precision itself often brings relief while enabling better communication. One aspect of language that particularly affects pain perception involves duration terms. Phrases like "constant pain," "always hurting," or "pain that never stops" create a perception of uninterrupted suffering that rarely matches reality. Even in chronic conditions, pain typically fluctuates in intensity throughout the day. More accurate temporal language might include recurring discomfort, intermittent sensations, or pain that varies in intensity. These descriptions acknowledge the challenging nature of ongoing pain while also recognizing the natural variations and moments of relative ease that usually exist. The language patterns we use about pain often develop unconsciously, influenced by family patterns, cultural expressions, and media depictions of suffering. Becoming aware of these inherited patterns gives you the opportunity to choose more helpful language deliberately. Some people come from families where dramatic pain expressions were normalized or even necessary to receive attention and care. Others were raised with stoic attitudes where acknowledging pain at all felt unacceptable. Recognizing these influences helps you develop a more balanced, accurate way of describing your experience. Changing habitual language patterns requires practice and patience. You've likely been using certain pain descriptions for years or even decades. These patterns don't transform overnight. Each time you catch yourself using inflammatory language and substitute more neutral terms, you strengthen new neural pathways. A useful practice involves keeping a brief pain journal where you record both the sensations you experience and the language you initially used to describe them. Then rewrite those descriptions using more neutral, precise terms. This practice helps train your brain to automatically generate more balanced language over time. This language shift creates benefits beyond pain reduction. Many people report improved relationships when they communicate about their pain more accurately. Family members and friends often respond with more appropriate support when given clear, non-dramatic information rather than alarming generalizations that leave them feeling helpless. Healthcare interactions frequently improve as well. Practitioners can develop more targeted treatment plans when provided with specific, detailed pain descriptions. The precision that neutral language encourages leads to more effective care than vague but dramatic expressions of suffering. The language we use not only communicates our current experience but helps shape our remembered experience of pain. These memories then influence how we anticipate and respond to similar sensations in the future. By using neutral, accurate language now, you help reshape your brain's pain processing for future encounters with discomfort. This language approach works for both physical and emotional pain. The same principles apply whether you're experiencing back pain, a difficult emotion, or psychological distress. In all these cases, dramatic, catastrophic language intensifies suffering, while neutral, descriptive language helps maintain perspective. As you develop the habit of using more neutral pain language, you'll likely notice changes in how you perceive time during discomfort. The catastrophic thinking that dramatic language encourages often creates a distorted sense of time, making minutes feel like hours and creating the impression that pain will continue indefinitely. With more balanced language comes a more accurate perception of duration. Pain no longer seems eternal when you're not telling yourself, "This will never end." Moments of discomfort remain just that, moments that arise and pass rather than permanent states of suffering. This time perception aspect of pain represents a crucial dimension of the pain experience. How we relate to time significantly influences pain intensity. When we project suffering forward mentally, imagining hours, days, or years of continued pain, we create additional distress beyond our current sensations. The relationship between language and time perception helps explain why the words we choose matter so much. Language doesn't just describe our current experience, it shapes our expectations, memories, and projections about past and future pain. These temporal aspects of pain often contribute more to suffering than the immediate physical sensation. By choosing words that accurately describe your present experience without projecting catastrophic futures or dwelling on painful pasts, you help your nervous system remain regulated in the present moment. This regulation itself creates conditions for reduced pain intensity and increased resilience. Chapter 7. Time Perception and Pain Experience. Have you ever noticed how time seems to slow down when you're in pain? A few minutes of intense discomfort can feel like hours, while pleasant experiences seem to fly by in moments. Why does this happen, and how can understanding time perception help reduce suffering? Our relationship with time significantly influences pain intensity. When we experience discomfort, our perception of time often distorts in ways that increase suffering. Pain seems worse when we focus on how long it has lasted or might continue. This focus creates a mental projection that extends the suffering beyond what exists in the present moment. The mind has a tendency to project pain forward in time, creating what psychologists call anticipatory suffering. When you have a headache and think this is going to ruin my entire day, you're mentally creating suffering for hours that haven't even happened yet. This projection adds a heavy layer of distress beyond your current physical sensations. Advanced practitioners of pain management learn to experience pain only in the present moment without adding past or future dimensions. This approach might sound simple, but it represents a significant shift from how most people relate to discomfort. Most of us automatically add time-based thinking to our pain experience without realizing we're doing it. This time-based thinking takes many forms. You might focus on how long the pain has already lasted. This has been hurting for 3 days straight. You might worry about how long it will continue. I can't handle another hour of this. You might compare current pain to past experiences. This is worse than last time. All these thoughts extend suffering beyond the present moment. Time-focused thoughts create particular problems for those with recurring or chronic conditions. When pain has been present for months or years, it's easy to develop the perception that suffering is permanent and unchanging. This perception itself often increases pain intensity by creating hopelessness and mental resistance. The practice of bringing attention fully to the present moment interrupts this time distortion. It begins by noticing time-based thoughts as they arise. When you catch yourself thinking, "This has been going on forever," or "I'll feel this way all day," simply recognize these as thoughts rather than facts about your experience. Then, gently bring your attention to this breath, this heartbeat, this moment of experience. Pain exists only in the present, never in the past or future. Even when a condition continues over time, the actual sensation exists only in this moment. Past pain exists only in memory, and future pain exists only in imagination. This present moment focus doesn't deny the reality of ongoing conditions. It simply recognizes that our experience always occurs now. By staying with the actual sensation without adding time projections, many people discover that what seemed like constant pain actually consists of changing moments of varying intensity, with brief periods of relative ease that often go unnoticed. Physical posture plays a surprisingly important role in how we experience pain over time. Most people don't realize how significantly body position affects pain processing in the nervous system. Slumped postures typically increase pain sensitivity, while aligned postures often reduce it. When we slump forward, several physiological changes occur that amplify discomfort. Breathing becomes shallow, reducing oxygen flow throughout the body. Certain muscles tighten while others weaken, creating imbalances that increase strain on joints and tissues. Blood circulation becomes restricted in key areas, reducing the delivery of nutrients and removal of inflammatory compounds. The specific alignment that helps varies by condition, but generally involves finding a neutral spine position that optimizes nervous system functioning. For many people, this means sitting or standing with the ears aligned over the shoulders, shoulders over hips, and hips in a balanced position that distributes weight evenly. These posture adjustments improve blood flow to tissues, reducing inflammation and promoting healing. They also reduce muscle guarding patterns, the unconscious tightening of muscles around painful areas that often amplify pain over time. When muscles remain chronically tense, they create additional pressure on nerves and tissues while consuming energy the body needs for healing. Finding helpful posture doesn't mean forcing yourself into rigid, uncomfortable positions. It involves discovering alignment that feels naturally balanced and requires minimal muscular effort to maintain. This alignment creates conditions where the body can function optimally, reducing unnecessary strain that contributes to pain. For those with back pain, small adjustments often make significant differences. Simply placing a small cushion or rolled towel behind the lower back while sitting can help maintain natural spinal curves. For neck pain, bringing awareness to head position throughout the day, especially while using phones or computers, can prevent the forward head posture that strains neck muscles and compresses nerves. For joint conditions like arthritis, alignment focuses on distributing weight and pressure evenly rather than loading certain areas excessively. This might involve changing how you stand, walk, or hold objects to minimize strain on affected joints while maintaining functionality. When combined with present moment awareness, proper physical alignment creates a complete reset of the pain experience. This combined approach works by addressing both mental and physical aspects of discomfort simultaneously. The mental aspect involves relating to pain as a present moment experience without time projections. The physical aspect involves creating bodily conditions that support comfort and healing rather than exacerbating tension. This approach works even for long-term conditions by breaking the continuous pain narrative into manageable present moment experiences. Instead of seeing pain as an unbroken timeline stretching backward and forward, you experience it as discrete moments that arise and pass. Each moment becomes an opportunity for skillful response rather than part of an overwhelming, permanent condition. The connection between time perception and physical posture becomes particularly evident when observing people during pain episodes. Those caught in time-based thinking about their pain often physically contract, as if trying to protect themselves from both present and future discomfort. This contraction then increases tension, restricts breathing, and amplifies the very sensations they fear. By practicing present moment awareness, this physical contraction naturally begins to release. When the mind stops projecting pain forward in time, the body often responds by releasing unnecessary tension. This release creates immediate relief while also improving conditions for longer-term healing. People with chronic pain conditions frequently develop habitual postures that initially developed as protective responses but eventually create additional problems. For instance, someone with hip pain might shift their weight to the non-painful side. While this shifting provides immediate relief, over time it creates muscle imbalances and joint strain that generate new pain patterns. Bringing mindful awareness to these habitual patterns allows you to discover more balanced alternatives. Instead of completely avoiding pressure on painful areas, you might explore gentle, appropriate engagement that maintains strength and mobility while respecting your current limitations. This balanced approach differs significantly from common advice to either push through the pain or completely avoid what hurts. Both extremes typically create problems over time. Pushing through pain often increases inflammation and injury. Complete avoidance leads to weakness, stiffness, and increased sensitivity when movement eventually becomes necessary. The time perception aspect helps tremendously with finding this middle path. When you're fully present with each moment of movement or stillness, you can notice subtle signals from your body before they become overwhelming pain. This sensitivity allows for appropriate activity that respects your body's needs rather than being driven by fear or rigid rules. Many people discover that their pain varies predictably throughout the day. Perhaps morning stiffness gradually eases with movement, or fatigue increases discomfort in the evening. Recognizing these patterns helps you plan activities during your better times while incorporating more rest or gentle movement during challenging periods. This time-aware approach applies not just to daily fluctuations, but also to longer cycles. Many pain conditions follow weekly, monthly, or seasonal patterns influenced by factors like weather changes, hormonal cycles, or work demands. Noticing these larger patterns helps reduce the sense of unpredictability that often increases anxiety about pain. Interestingly, our breathing patterns both reflect and influence our perception of time during pain. When we project suffering forward and imagine hours or days of continued discomfort, breathing typically becomes shallow and rapid. This restricted breathing pattern signals danger to the nervous system, increasing pain sensitivity. Conversely, full, relaxed breathing helps anchor awareness in the present moment while sending safety signals throughout the body. This connection between breath, time perception, and pain creates a powerful opportunity for intervention. By changing how you breathe during discomfort, you can influence both your time perception and your physical pain experience. The relationship between time perception and pain explains why mindfulness practices have shown such promising results in pain management research. These practices specifically train the ability to stay present with experience rather than becoming caught in thoughts about past or future. This present moment awareness naturally interrupts the mental time traveling that amplifies suffering. For those with severe or chronic pain, working with time perception often provides relief, even when the physical sensation cannot be eliminated completely. Many patients report that while their pain intensity remains similar, their suffering decreases significantly when they stop adding time-based thinking to their experience. This distinction between pain and suffering becomes particularly clear when exploring the time dimension. Pain exists in the present moment as physical sensation. Suffering often comes from thoughts about how long the pain has lasted and how long it might continue. By recognizing these thought patterns and gently returning to present experience, you separate the unavoidable aspects of pain from the optional aspects of suffering. The skills developed through working with time perception during pain transfer to many other challenging life situations. The ability to stay present during discomfort rather than mentally projecting suffering forward creates resilience for facing difficulties of all kinds. This resilience doesn't come from denying challenges, but from relating to them more skillfully, without adding unnecessary distress through time-based thinking. The practice of remaining present with pain requires support from your breathing patterns. Full, relaxed breathing helps maintain present moment awareness while also directly influencing your nervous system response to discomfort. This connection between time perception, posture, and breath reveals how interconnected these aspects of pain management truly are. Chapter 8. Breath Regulation for Pain Relief. Have you ever noticed how your breathing changes when you feel pain? It often becomes quick and shallow, or sometimes you might even hold your breath entirely without realizing it. This simple observation reveals one of the most powerful tools you already possess for transforming your experience of discomfort. Breathing patterns directly influence the autonomic nervous system, which controls many bodily functions, including pain processing. This relationship between breath and pain creates an extraordinary opportunity. While you cannot directly control many aspects of your nervous system, you can consciously change your breathing. This access point allows you to influence systems that normally operate beyond conscious control. When pain strikes, most people automatically shift into short, shallow breathing or occasionally hold their breath entirely. This breathing pattern sends danger signals throughout the body, triggering what scientists call the sympathetic nervous system response, our body's alert system. This activation increases heart rate, tenses muscles, releases stress hormones, and significantly heightens pain sensitivity. This reaction made perfect sense in our evolutionary past, when pain often signaled immediate threats requiring quick action. The shallow breathing pattern prepares the body for emergency movement by directing oxygen to major muscle groups. However, for most modern pain situations, whether a headache, back pain, or recovering from surgery, this emergency response only increases suffering without providing benefits. The good news is that specific breathing patterns can activate the parasympathetic nervous system instead, often called the rest and digest system. This activation reduces inflammation, relaxes muscle tension, and naturally dampens pain signals. Research at UCLA documented impressive results from these approaches, with patients experiencing a 31% reduction in pain when practicing targeted breathing techniques. This substantial improvement occurred without medication or other interventions, simply by changing breathing patterns. The participants weren't special in any way. They were ordinary people with various pain conditions who learned specific breathing approaches. This research confirms what practitioners of ancient traditions have known for centuries. Breath profoundly affects our pain experience. The practice begins with a simple pain-specific breathing assessment. During moments of discomfort, pause briefly to notice your current breathing pattern. Is your breath quick and shallow, moving primarily in your upper chest? Are you holding your breath for periods without realizing it? Is your exhale shorter than your inhale? Most people discover at least one of these patterns during pain. These observations provide valuable information without judgment. These breathing responses developed as protective mechanisms, so there's no need to criticize yourself for them. Simply noticing these patterns creates awareness that allows for conscious change. The foundation for pain relief breathing starts with slow diaphragmatic breathing. Breathing deeply so the abdomen expands rather than just the chest. This breathing style activates the vagus nerve, a key component of the parasympathetic nervous system that regulates inflammatory responses throughout the body. To practice diaphragmatic breathing, place one hand on your abdomen below your navel and one on your upper chest. As you breathe in, allow your lower hand to rise as your abdomen expands, while your chest remains relatively still. When you exhale, your abdomen gently contracts. This breathing engages your diaphragm, the dome-shaped muscle beneath your lungs designed for efficient breathing. Many people find this breathing style unfamiliar at first. Years of stress, poor posture, or simply habit often create chest-dominant breathing patterns. With practice, diaphragmatic breathing becomes more natural. Even a few minutes of this breathing several times daily helps retrain your default pattern, creating benefits that extend beyond pain management to general well-being. For sharp, intense pain, the extended exhale technique proves particularly effective. This approach involves making your exhale approximately twice as long as your inhale. For example, you might breathe in for a count of 3, then exhale slowly for a count of 6. This extended exhale amplifies parasympathetic activation, creating a stronger relaxation response throughout your nervous system. This technique works so well for intense pain because it directly counters the physiological state that acute pain creates. Sharp pain typically triggers a rapid inhale and tension holding pattern. The extended exhale deliberately creates the opposite pattern, signaling safety to your nervous system. This signal helps interrupt the escalation cycle where pain creates tension, which increases pain, which creates more tension. For dull, persistent pain, like the ongoing ache of arthritis or chronic back pain, rhythmic breathing maintains a consistent pace with equal inhale and exhale durations. This balanced breathing stabilizes the nervous system and prevents pain-related breathing disruptions that often intensify discomfort over time. Rhythmic breathing involves establishing a comfortable, steady pace that you maintain for several minutes. You might breathe in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 4, maintaining this rhythm without forcing or straining. The specific count matters less than the consistency and comfort of the rhythm. This approach works well for persistent pain because it creates a stable, predictable pattern that calms the nervous system's threat detection mechanisms. When the nervous system detects consistent rhythmic breathing, it interprets this as evidence of safety. This interpretation reduces the amplification of pain signals that occurs when the system perceives threat or danger. These breathing techniques work immediately and become more effective with regular practice. Even during your first attempt, you'll likely notice some change in how your body holds tension. With consistent practice, these approaches create lasting changes in your default response to discomfort. The timing of breath practice significantly impacts its effectiveness for pain management. Ideally, incorporate these approaches at 3 key moments: preventatively before pain increases, immediately when pain begins, and during peak discomfort periods. Preventative breathing helps establish a calm nervous system that processes potentially painful stimuli differently than a stressed system. For those with recurring pain conditions, regular breath practice during relatively comfortable periods helps maintain nervous system regulation, reducing the intensity and duration of painful episodes when they occur. When you first notice pain beginning, immediate breath adjustment helps prevent the escalation cycle. This early intervention often stops pain from reaching its potential peak intensity by interrupting the cascade of physiological responses that amplify discomfort. Even 15 seconds of conscious breathing at this stage can significantly affect how the episode unfolds. During peak pain periods, breathing techniques provide both immediate relief and the sense of having an effective tool rather than feeling helpless. This psychological benefit shouldn't be underestimated. The feeling of having some control during pain reduces suffering beyond the direct physical effects of the breathing itself. For those taking pain medication, breath regulation serves as a powerful complementary approach. When used alongside appropriate medication, these techniques often increase medication effectiveness while potentially reducing necessary dosages. The physiological state created by proper breathing helps your body process and respond to medication more efficiently. Body position affects breathing capacity significantly. The posture adjustments discussed in the previous chapter support effective breathing, creating a synergistic effect. Slumped positions restrict diaphragm movement, limiting your breathing depth. Aligned postures create space for full breathing, enhancing the effectiveness of these techniques. This connection works both ways. Improved breathing also supports better posture. When you breathe fully using your diaphragm, the movement naturally encourages proper spinal alignment and engages core muscles that support good posture. This mutual reinforcement creates a positive cycle where each element enhances the other. Many people discover that breath regulation helps not only with physical pain, but also with emotional distress. The same nervous system that processes physical discomfort also handles emotional pain. The calming effect of proper breathing benefits both forms of suffering, highlighting the deep connection between physical and emotional well-being. This connection becomes particularly relevant when pain persists over time. Chronic pain often creates emotional challenges including frustration, anxiety, and sometimes depression. Breath regulation addresses both the physical sensation and the emotional components simultaneously, providing comprehensive relief rather than treating these aspects separately. The breathing practices for pain relief require no special equipment, can be performed anywhere, and remain completely within your control. This accessibility makes them particularly valuable tools for managing discomfort. Unlike treatments that depend on external providers or substances, your breath remains constantly available as a resource. While breathing techniques offer significant benefits individually, their effectiveness increases when practiced in supportive social contexts. Humans naturally synchronize their physiological states with those around them. When you practice breathing techniques alongside others, whether in person or virtually, the collective calm creates a supportive environment that enhances individual results. This social dimension of breathing highlights the profound connection between our individual physiological state and our social environment. Pain itself changes depending on the social context in which we experience it. Isolation typically increases pain sensitivity, while supportive connection reduces it. This biological reality explains why hospital patients with strong social support networks require significantly less pain medication than isolated individuals. The social aspect of pain management extends beyond breathing techniques to include many forms of connection. The brain processes social rejection using the same pathways as physical pain, demonstrating the deep neurobiological link between social experience and pain perception. This connection helps explain why supportive relationships can significantly reduce suffering during painful conditions. Cultivating compassionate awareness, both toward yourself and others experiencing pain, releases oxytocin, a hormone that naturally dampens pain signals. This physiological response to connection provides another powerful tool for pain management that complements the breathing techniques we've explored. The relationship between breath, social connection, and pain illuminates how interconnected these aspects of human experience truly are. While we often think of pain as purely physical and entirely personal, both breath regulation and social factors significantly influence how we process and experience discomfort. Understanding these connections reveals opportunities for comprehensive approaches to suffering. Rather than addressing pain through single interventions, we can engage multiple dimensions simultaneously. The breath serves as both an individual tool for nervous system regulation and a bridge to the social connections that further support healing and comfort. Chapter 9. Social Connection and Compassion. Have you ever noticed that pain feels worse when you're alone? This simple observation points to a powerful truth about human suffering. Our social connections dramatically influence how we experience pain. Isolation significantly increases pain sensitivity while supportive connections reduce it. This relationship isn't just psychological, it's deeply biological. Hospital studies consistently show that patients with strong social support networks require less pain medication than those who are isolated, despite similar medical conditions and procedures. The difference can be substantial, with well-connected patients sometimes needing only half the pain medication of isolated individuals. This biological reality exists because humans evolved as intensely social creatures. Our nervous systems developed not in isolation but in constant interaction with others. Throughout our evolutionary history, separation from the group often meant danger, while connection represented safety. These ancient patterns remain embedded in our biology today, affecting how our brains and bodies process pain signals. The brain processes social rejection using many of the same neural pathways it uses for physical pain. Brain imaging studies show overlapping activation patterns when someone experiences either physical pain or feelings of social exclusion. This shared neural circuitry demonstrates the deep connection between social experience and pain perception. It helps explain why emotional pain can feel so physically real. Because to your brain, it is. This connection works in both directions. Not only does social pain activate physical pain pathways, but social connection activates pain relief mechanisms. When you experience genuine connection with others, your brain releases several beneficial chemicals, including oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin naturally dampens pain signals in the nervous system while also reducing inflammation throughout the body. Originally discovered for its role in childbirth and breastfeeding, scientists now understand that oxytocin release occurs during many positive social interactions. Friendly conversation, physical touch, even eye contact with someone you trust can trigger its release. This explains why something as simple as holding someone's hand during a painful procedure can significantly reduce discomfort. Cultivating compassionate awareness, both toward yourself and others, provides a powerful approach to pain management that works through these biological mechanisms. This practice begins with self-compassion during pain episodes. Most people add self-criticism to their suffering with thoughts like, "I should handle this better," or "I'm weak for feeling this way." These judgments activate stress responses that amplify pain while preventing the release of natural pain-relieving compounds. Replacing these harsh judgments with kind awareness creates the opposite effect. When you respond to your own pain with the same kindness you might offer a friend, several positive changes occur. Your body relaxes, your breathing naturally deepens, and your nervous system shifts toward a more regulated state where pain signals aren't amplified. This self-compassionate response reduces both physical and emotional distress. Practicing self-compassion doesn't mean letting yourself off the hook for proper self-care or necessary actions. Instead, it creates the emotional safety needed to respond effectively to challenging situations. When not caught in self-criticism, you can make clearer decisions about what might help your condition while having the emotional resources to follow through on those choices. Many people find self-compassion challenging at first. Years of habitual self-criticism can make kindness toward yourself feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable. Start with simple phrases during painful moments. "This is really hard right now." "Everyone struggles sometimes." Or "May I be kind to myself during this difficulty?" Even brief moments of self-compassion begin to shift your physiological state in beneficial ways. The practice extends beyond self-compassion to connecting with others experiencing similar conditions. Support groups provide validation and practical wisdom while reducing the isolation that amplifies suffering. Whether in person or online, these communities help normalize your experience and provide hope through contact with others who understand your specific challenges. Research shows that participating in support groups often leads to reduced pain levels, improved functioning, and better quality of life for people with various pain conditions. These benefits stem partially from practical information sharing, but largely from the biological benefits of connection itself. Simply being with others who understand your experience creates physiological changes that support healing and comfort. Even brief, compassionate interactions activate pain-relieving brain mechanisms. A short, friendly conversation with a neighbor, a supportive text exchange with a friend, or a kind interaction with a store clerk can trigger oxytocin release and temporarily reduce pain intensity. These small social moments, which many people overlook during pain, provide valuable opportunities for natural relief. For those with chronic conditions, maintaining meaningful relationships despite pain limitations becomes a crucial management strategy. This maintenance often requires adapting how you connect with others. Instead of giving up social activities entirely when pain limits your capabilities, look for modified ways to participate. This might mean shorter visits, different types of activities, or more frequent rest breaks during social engagements. Clear communication with friends and family helps navigate these adaptations. Many people hesitate to discuss their pain limitations, fearing they'll burden others or be seen as complaining. However, simple, matter-of-fact explanations of your needs often strengthen relationships by allowing others to support you appropriately. Most people want to help but don't know how unless you tell them. Research shows that even thinking about supportive relationships can trigger oxytocin release and reduce pain intensity. When physical connection isn't possible, simply bringing to mind people who care about you creates measurable biological changes. Try spending a few minutes recalling specific interactions with supportive friends or family members, focusing on the feeling of being understood and accepted. This mental practice activates many of the same neural pathways as actual social connection. This biological mechanism explains why connection works as medicine for both physical and emotional suffering. The same neurochemical processes that reduce physical pain also soothe emotional distress. This shared pathway creates a positive cycle where emotional comfort supports physical relief, which further improves emotional well-being. The compassion practices that help with your own pain naturally extend to others in similar situations. When you've developed skills for relating to your own suffering with kindness, you become more capable of offering genuine support to others. This outward-focused compassion creates additional benefits, activating reward centers in the brain and further reducing your own distress. Many pain management programs now incorporate peer support components, where participants both receive and provide support to others with similar conditions. This reciprocal helping model produces stronger outcomes than approaches where people only receive support without giving it. The opportunity to help others creates meaning and purpose while activating additional biological mechanisms that reduce suffering. For those with severe or debilitating pain conditions, social isolation often becomes a significant challenge. Physical limitations may prevent participation in previous social activities, and sometimes friends withdraw out of uncertainty about how to help. This isolation creates a negative spiral where pain increases loneliness, which then amplifies pain perception. Breaking this isolation spiral requires creative approaches to connection. Technology offers valuable tools, with video calls, social media groups, and online communities providing access to social support, even during periods of limited mobility. While these digital connections don't replace in-person interaction entirely, they offer substantial benefits when physical presence isn't possible. The quality of social connection matters as much as the quantity. Research indicates that a few deep, authentic relationships provide greater pain relief benefits than numerous superficial contacts. Prioritizing meaningful interactions over social obligations helps direct limited energy toward connections that truly support well-being during painful periods. Cultural factors significantly influence how people experience the relationship between social connection and pain. Some cultures emphasize stoicism and privacy around suffering, while others normalize sharing pain experiences and seeking community support. Regardless of cultural background, the biological mechanisms linking connection to pain relief remain active, though the specific approaches to accessing these benefits may vary. Healthcare settings present particular challenges for maintaining connection during pain. The medical environment often separates patients from their support networks exactly when connection would provide the greatest benefit. Progressive healthcare facilities now recognize this issue and incorporate policies that support the presence of family members or friends during procedures and hospital stays. These policies acknowledge the measurable medical benefits of social support during painful experiences. The relationship between pain, social connection, and compassion extends to how societies structure support systems for those experiencing chronic conditions. Communities with strong social safety nets and integrated support services typically show better outcomes for pain management than those where individuals must navigate suffering in isolation. This broader perspective reminds us that pain management isn't solely an individual responsibility, but also involves collective approaches to supporting well-being. When working with ongoing pain conditions, balancing independence with appropriate interdependence creates the most sustainable approach. Many people pride themselves on self-sufficiency and resist asking for help, viewing it as weakness. However, human biology evolved within interdependent communities where resource sharing and mutual support were normal aspects of survival. Recognizing when to seek support honors this biological heritage rather than contradicting true human strength. The compassionate awareness that helps with pain also transforms how you view others experiencing suffering. As you develop a kinder relationship with your own difficulties, you naturally extend this understanding to others. This expanded perspective reduces judgment and increases patience during challenging interactions, creating more supportive environments for everyone. By cultivating both self-compassion and meaningful connections, you activate powerful biological mechanisms that naturally reduce pain intensity. These approaches complement the breathing practices and other techniques explored earlier, creating a comprehensive strategy for transforming your relationship with discomfort. As these separate approaches come together, they create something more powerful than any individual technique, an integrated system for working skillfully with pain in all its dimensions. Chapter 10. integrated approach and personalized application. What happens when you combine all these mental shifts into one unified approach to pain? The result is something far more powerful than any single technique used alone, a comprehensive system that transforms your relationship with suffering. Throughout our exploration, we've examined 9 distinct mental shifts that change how you experience pain. Each approach offers valuable tools for specific situations. Mindfulness creates awareness of your automatic reactions. Acceptance stops the struggle that amplifies suffering. Deconstructing pain breaks overwhelming sensations into manageable parts. Neutral language prevents catastrophic thinking. Time perception adjustments keep you anchored in the present moment. Posture changes optimize your body's functioning. Breathing techniques regulate your nervous system. Social connection activates natural pain-relieving mechanisms. Compassion soothes both physical and emotional distress. These approaches work well individually, but their true power emerges when they function together as an integrated system. With practice, these separate techniques combine into a comprehensive response to discomfort. Instead of applying each shift separately, advanced practitioners develop intuitive responses that simultaneously incorporate multiple approaches. This integration happens naturally as you practice these skills regularly. What begins as deliberate, step-by-step application gradually becomes a fluid, automatic process. Your brain creates new neural pathways that process pain differently, and these pathways strengthen with each practice session. Eventually, this transformed relationship with pain becomes your default response rather than requiring conscious effort. Consider how this integration might work during an actual pain experience. When discomfort arises, you first notice it with mindful awareness rather than automatically reacting against it. This awareness creates space for acceptance, acknowledging the pain exists without adding resistance. From this accepting stance, you observe the sensation carefully, noticing its specific qualities and boundaries, rather than perceiving it as one overwhelming experience. As you observe these qualities, you naturally use neutral, descriptive language rather than catastrophic terms. This neutral language helps maintain present-moment awareness rather than projecting suffering forward in time. You adjust your posture subtly to support comfort and optimal functioning. Your breathing naturally deepens and regulates, further calming your nervous system. You remember you're not alone with this experience, drawing strength from your connections with others who understand. Throughout this process, you maintain a compassionate attitude toward yourself rather than adding self-criticism. This integrated response happens within moments rather than requiring lengthy analysis. The mental shifts work together seamlessly, each supporting the others. Acceptance makes mindful observation possible. Mindful observation enables deconstruction of sensations. Deconstruction naturally leads to more neutral language. This neutral framing supports present-moment awareness rather than time projections. All these shifts together create the conditions for regulated breathing, beneficial posture, and self-compassion. Different conditions respond better to specific combinations of techniques. Understanding these patterns helps you develop a personalized approach for your particular situation. Inflammatory pain conditions like arthritis benefit most from breath regulation and language modification. The breath techniques reduce inflammatory responses throughout the body, while careful language prevents the catastrophic thinking that increases stress hormones and further inflammation. Neuropathic pain, which comes from nerve damage or dysfunction, responds well to deconstruction techniques and time perception shifts. Breaking down these complex, often bizarre sensations into specific components makes them less threatening. Focusing on the present moment prevents the anxiety about future pain that particularly affects those with unpredictable nerve conditions. Tension-based pain improves with posture adjustments and acceptance practices. Proper alignment reduces physical strain on muscles and joints, while acceptance helps break the cycle of tension created by fighting against discomfort. Headaches often respond to this combination, as many headaches involve both physical tension and stress responses that acceptance helps regulate. The key lies in experimental application, trying different combinations to discover your optimal approach. Pain varies greatly between individuals, even those with identical medical diagnoses. Your personal history, nervous system sensitivity, thought patterns, and physical structure all influence which approaches work best for you. This individualized nature makes personal experimentation essential. Begin this experimentation during mild or moderate pain episodes rather than waiting for severe discomfort. Learning new skills during intense pain proves difficult for most people. When pain reaches severe levels, the brain's alarm systems activate fully, making it harder to access the reflective thinking needed for new approaches. Regular practice during manageable discomfort prepares you to apply these skills even during more intense episodes. These mental shifts provide something precious: agency in your healing process rather than dependency on external solutions. This doesn't mean rejecting medical care when appropriate. Instead, it means complementing that care with approaches that put some control back in your hands. This self-reliance aspect proves particularly valuable for conditions where medical treatments offer limited relief. Many pain conditions fall into this category: situations where medicine provides partial help but cannot address every aspect of suffering. Chronic back pain, fibromyalgia, migraines, arthritis, and neuropathic conditions often leave people searching for additional relief beyond what medications and procedures can provide. The mental shifts we've explored help fill this gap. These approaches don't replace necessary medical care but complement it by addressing dimensions of pain that medications cannot reach. They work alongside conventional treatments, often making those treatments more effective. Many pain specialists now recognize this complementary relationship and incorporate these approaches into comprehensive treatment plans. When patients learn these mental shifts, healthcare providers often notice improved outcomes. Patients report better function, less distress about their condition, and sometimes require lower medication doses to achieve comfort. These improvements stem from addressing the psychological dimensions of pain that significantly influence the overall pain experience. The brain doesn't distinguish clearly between physical and emotional suffering. Both travel through similar neural pathways and trigger related responses. By addressing the emotional and cognitive aspects of pain, these mental shifts influence the entire pain experience, including its physical dimensions. This understanding represents an evolving field where ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience continue revealing new possibilities. Traditions that developed these approaches through careful observation over thousands of years now find validation in brain imaging studies, hormone measurements, and clinical trials. This convergence creates exciting opportunities for more effective pain management. Future developments will likely include technology-assisted applications of these approaches, apps that guide breathing practices, virtual reality environments that facilitate mindfulness during painful procedures, and wearable devices that provide real-time feedback about tension patterns already exist in preliminary forms. These technological tools make ancient wisdom more accessible in modern contexts. Group-based protocols also show promise for making these approaches more widely available. Learning these skills alongside others creates additional benefits through the social support mechanisms we explored earlier. Group programs also make these approaches more economically accessible than individual training, helping address healthcare disparities in pain management. Integration with conventional medical approaches continues improving as healthcare systems recognize the value of comprehensive pain management. Some hospitals now offer these approaches alongside standard care, particularly for pre-surgical preparation, post-operative recovery, and chronic pain management. This integration helps reduce medication dependency while improving overall outcomes. Despite these advances, challenges remain in implementing these approaches widely. Many healthcare systems still focus primarily on medication and procedural interventions, with limited support for approaches that require patient participation and practice. Insurance coverage for these approaches varies widely. creating access barriers for many people who could benefit. Additionally, cultural attitudes about pain influence willingness to explore these approaches. Cultures that emphasize quick fixes and passive receiving of treatment sometimes resist methods requiring active participation. Overcoming these barriers requires clear communication about how these approaches complement rather than replace conventional care. For those navigating pain conditions, several practical considerations help implement these approaches effectively. Start small, practicing brief versions of these techniques regularly rather than attempting lengthy sessions occasionally. Brief, consistent practice creates more lasting changes in neural pathways than occasional extended sessions. Document your experiences, noting which approaches help most in specific situations. This documentation helps identify patterns and refine your personal approach over time. It also provides motivation by demonstrating progress that might otherwise go unnoticed during challenging periods. Find supportive resources that match your learning style. Some people benefit from books with detailed explanations, others from guided audio practices, and still others from in-person instruction. Many free resources exist online, including guided practices specifically designed for pain management. Remember that progress rarely follows a straight line. You'll likely experience periods of significant improvement followed by temporary setbacks, particularly during stress or illness. These fluctuations represent a normal learning process rather than failure. Continuing practice during difficult periods, even in simplified forms, maintains progress and prevents reverting entirely to old patterns. The most important factor in successfully implementing these approaches is a balanced perspective that avoids both excessive optimism and unnecessary pessimism. These mental shifts won't eliminate all pain or replace appropriate medical care. However, they can significantly reduce suffering even when pain persists, improving quality of life and functionality in meaningful ways. This balanced perspective recognizes that pain serves important protective functions we wouldn't want to eliminate completely. Pain tells us to remove our hand from a hot surface, rest an injured joint, or seek help for an infection. The goal isn't to silence these important messages, but to receive them without adding unnecessary suffering through our reactions. By developing a more skillful relationship with pain through these mental shifts, you honor pain's protective function while reducing its destructive aspects. This balanced approach represents true wisdom in facing one of life's most challenging experiences. It acknowledges pain's reality while recognizing our capacity to transform how we experience it. The mental shifts we've explored represent a timeless approach to human suffering, developed across cultures and throughout history. They work because they address fundamental aspects of human experience that remain constant despite changing cultural contexts and medical technologies. By applying these approaches in your own life, you tap into this enduring wisdom while benefiting from modern scientific understanding that validates and refines these ancient practices.